A very good evening to you. Welcome to the broadcast. This is NTV Tonight, and these are our top stories.
Tonight, SRC vows to block housing allowances for legislators.
The setting of their remuneration and benefits is the exclusive responsibility of SRC.
SRC is also denying any deal with CSs and governors.
And more accused employees appear in court. Lead prosecutor seeks to consolidate cases.
If my colleagues do agree, if we can have them add jointly so that proceedings can be recorded on one particular file.
We wish to argue his facts separately.
7 other suspects denied anticipatory bail.
Plus, is the political dalliance on the rocks?
His personal attacks that are, as I said, they are too childish for us who are in leadership to be able to engage in.
Why go to State House, take a photo with the president when he's signing a bill, and then come around back and then, start crying like a small kid?
Health Law Act driving a wedge between the two houses of Parliament.
Also tonight, 7 Nairobi hospital board members replaced.
This has just been house cleaning, trying to change and allow for a board to put in practice core business and put structures that build this hospital.
NTV Tonight with Mark Masai and Smriti Vidyarthi.
Thank you for joining us. Rafael Mbalu will be giving us interpretation in sign language while we're on air for the next hour or so. To the top story, the battle between members of Parliament and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission over house allowances enters a new arena, with the SRC promising to move to court.
The SRC takes the fight to court in an effort to recover the monies MPs have already paid themselves in house allowances and to stop any further payments.
The Commission has also denied that it entered into secret negotiations with Cabinet Secretaries and Deputy Governors for the same.
NTV's Olive Burrows starts our broadcast tonight.
MPs may think they've carried the day, but the war over their pay and perks, the Salaries and Remunerations Commission says, is far from over. The Commission pledging to challenge the MPs' latest move to award themselves a housing allowance in court.
The Commission will take legal action to stop any payment that has not been set or advised by SRC and recover such payments.
In a continuous exchange with the legislators, the Commission has also defended itself against accusations that it secretly awarded Cabinet Secretaries, Principal Secretaries and Chief Administrative Secretaries housing allowances to allow them to host foreign dignitaries, thereby employing a double standard where the legislators are concerned.
The CSS and PSS do not get a house allowance, and we have not secretly advised them of any house allowance.
It is the Commission's position that a housing allowance is already factored into the lawmakers' gross pay, and therefore the additional 250,000 the legislators have awarded themselves amounts to a double payment. Not only that, the Commission views the move by MPs to award themselves a housing allowance without checking with them first as an affront to their constitutional mandate.
Members of Parliament and Senate, as per Article 260 of the Constitution, are state officers. Consequently, the setting of their remuneration and benefits is the exclusive responsibility of SRC.
The Commission is adamant that the MP's action cannot be left to stand, as it is not only illegal but sets a dangerous precedent, particularly considering the already inflated wage bill.
This payment will not only create inequity in remuneration and benefits for state officers, but will also lead to demands for house allowance by other state officers. The additional cost to taxpayers of such an action will be an estimated Kenya shillings 5.2 billion per year.
The Waheshimiwa are, however, unrepentant, and as always, where the welfare is concerned, unanimous. The public wage bill and the burden on taxpayers be damned.
SRC should not tell Kenyans that they are concerned about the wage bill. They brought an amendment to the SRC Act to make them full-time. the salaries which are there, they are the same as those of the members of parliament. But they also have they also give themselves housing benefits, house allowances. So yeah, what's good for the goose must be good for the gander.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Well, you've heard the story, that shocking story about MPs secretly passing a motion that compels you to pay their house rent.
Well, it appears they celebrated too soon, because the SRC, which was against the proposal in the first place, now says it will file recovery proceedings in court against the house allowance that irregularly paid to all 416 MPs.
Well, the Daily Nation has been following this story keenly, and today's announcement has all the hallmarks of what promises to be a grueling court battle between the Commission and Parliament.
In your copy of the region's best-selling newspaper tomorrow, read about what SRC Chairperson Lynn Mengich plans to do to recover the money, and why MPs are not planning to let go of the 250,000 monthly allowance easily.
Elsewhere now, another story we've been following keenly. 22 KRA staff who were arraigned in court today will spend 2 more days in police custody before being presented again on Friday at the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani for further directions.
That's right. The 7 other KRA employees were ordered to surrender themselves at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters after being denied anticipatory bail by the court.
38 suspects who were detained for 14 days as ordered by the court filed an appeal at the High Court challenging their detention.
NTV Seth Olale has been on the KRA graft train and reports from the Milimani Law Courts.
According to an affidavit sworn by investigating officer Arthur Onyango, who is attached to DCI headquarters, out of the 22 KRA staff arraigned for the first time over the tax evasion scandal, 12 are from the Department of Domestic Taxes (DTD), 5 from Customs and Border Control Unit, and 1 from Security. The 18 were arrested in Nairobi yesterday. An additional 4 hail from KRA's Mombasa offices, of whom 3 were arrested in Mombasa and transferred to Nairobi, while 1 surrendered yesterday. The investigating officer, through the affidavit, stated that at the time of the arrest, the suspects had new mobile phones, while others claimed that they did not have mobile phone handsets, a clear sign of obstruction of the ongoing investigations.
May it please the court, Your Honor, my name is Odiambo.
The suspects are also accused of forming a social media platform, namely Telegram, on May 10th, 20 hours, with the sole purpose of interfering with the ongoing investigations. The printout copy of the chats will be provided to the court, not to jeopardize ongoing investigations. Investigators say the chat group tackled how to sabotage operations at KRA and to some extent interfere with investigations. Detectives have also positively identified members of the chat group who did not use real names in actively inciting other KRA staff. The officer added that brief evidence so far gathered and credible intelligence received show that the suspects were actively involved and colluded with certain taxpayers in a criminal enterprise to evade payment of taxes or reduce tax liability. The KRA staff and their associates are being investigated for, among others, abuse of office, neglect of official duty, money laundering, tax avoidance and failure to pay taxes. DCI seeks to detain the suspects for 21 days in order to complete investigations.
We propose 20th.
Principal Prosecution Counsel Duncan Ondimu sought to consolidate 22 individual cases, but his request was rejected by defense lawyers who claimed that they had not been served with the required documentation. Senior Resident Magistrate Paul Mayova will hear and possibly rule on the matter on Friday at 11 a.m. 7 other suspects, who include Joseph Kuyo Legei, Geoffrey Kipsangeno, Felix Ndamboki Kimeu, and Caleb Angweni Auka, were ordered by the court to surrender at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations headquarters for arrest and prosecution. Their quest for anticipatory bail was rejected. 38 Kenya Revenue Authority employees who were arraigned on Monday and serving a 14-day detention order have filed an application at the High Court challenging their detention. So far, a total of 60 suspects have been arraigned at the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani. The DCI are seeking more than 20 others, even as investigations are ongoing. Seth Olale, NTV at the Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
All that glitters isn't gold, they say, but fresh details on the latest probe on gold smuggling points to a complex fraud scheme that has a sitting senator and a politician come businessman, Zahir Jihanda, right at the center.
The latest fraud is threatening Kenya's relations with the United Arab Emirates, where the royal family is believed to have lost over 250 million shillings to the fraudsters.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed the DCI to get to the bottom of the illegal business that thrives with the full knowledge of some corrupt senior police officers.
NTV's Zainab Ismail has more details.
As President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto were in the process of clearing their names at The Hague in 2013, outside the court stood a man whose name would come to be at the center of a complex gold smuggling and racketeering syndicate in the country. That man is Zahir Jihanda. Photos from his social media platforms depict a man so well connected with the who's who in the political sphere, or at least that's the impression he intends to portray. He would always be present where the Jubilee leadership toured. A man known for living a flamboyant lifestyle, and his love for the finer things swims in cash almost literally, if this photo is anything to go by. But the latest gold scam in which the United Arab Emirates royal family was crossed signals perhaps the end of the road for the flamboyant businessman. The UAE family is now demanding a 250 million shilling compensation for gold allegedly paid for and seized at the JKIA. Also dragged into the scam is Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula, who has since refuted the claims. Our efforts to reach him have proved futile. But one of his aides, Chris Mandu, told a local daily on Tuesday that the gold scam was a business deal gone sour and is now being peddled by his business partners who also lost money in the transaction. Also in Jihanda's political connections is Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi. Jihanda was allegedly the Kenyan link to the UAE royal family and promised to sell them at least 23 tons of gold. But things got difficult after Jihanda claimed the gold had been seized at the JKIA. Unwilling to settle, the royal family sent its representative by the name Ali Zandi to follow up the matter. And Zandi's only contact in Kenya was Senator Wetangula. Wetangula was allegedly supposed to help secure the consignment. So well crafted was the scheme that one of the fraudsters at some point masqueraded as CS Fred Matiang'i to get more legitimacy. The United Arab Emirates even wrote a complaint to the CS asking him to release the gold promptly in a letter seen by NTV. It is a situation that has now angered President Uhuru Kenyatta, according to sources. DCI detectives are investigating the incident, including those implicated, and have launched a crackdown on the fake gold scam, which has seen a Kenyan and a Bulgarian charged and 15 others arrested in Kitale on Monday. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Absolutely intriguing, and I bet the intrigues don't stop there. Keep tuned, we will be following that story. Elsewhere, a small-time turf war between National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale and his Senate counterpart Kipchumba Murkomen is now turning into a full-blown war.
All this triggered by the exclusion of the Senate in the passage of the Health Laws Amendment Act that was immediately taken to the President for assent after the National Assembly passed it.
NTV's political affairs reporter Kennedy Muredi reports that Duale and Murkomen do not have kind words for each other.
That all has not been smooth between National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale and his Senate equal Kipchumba Murkomen is not new in political circles, as they both seek to carve a niche for themselves and show their bosses their effectiveness. All this tracing back to the beginning of the 12th Parliament, when Murkomen replaced Tharaka-Nithi Senator Kithure Kindiki as the majority leader and quickly assumed a new role of being the government's defender in Parliament. The working of the two houses contributing to a large extent to the fight as each moves to protect their turf, and none is showing signs of budging. Monday's presidential function at State House of signing into law two bills, the Assumption of Office of Governor and the Health Laws Amendment, and the subsequent complaints at the Senate by Murkomen over the Senate's exclusion from the process of passing the health bill, exposing the divide.
I knew nothing about existence of an health bill being presented to the president until a few minutes just before the president signed it. And even my protest at that point in time was in vain.
This bill was before the National Assembly. It was before December for about 8 months. This bill was referred back to the National Assembly by the President in the powers given to him under Article 115. It stayed here from December to February 29th. And where was Kipchumba Murkomen the last 6 months?
Through his Twitter handle Tuesday evening, Duale took on Murkomen for his remarks on the floor of the House, which claimed that Senate's exclusion essentially negates the law and anyone can go to court to challenge it.
That is not law for purpose of our Constitution, that, Mr. Speaker, that law cannot be enforced anywhere in this republic.
You cannot lead a rebellion in the Senate against the government. I think that was a bit reckless.
These personal attacks that are, as I said, they are too childish for us who are in leadership to be able to engage in.
Why go to State House, take a photo with the president when he's signing a bill, and then come around back and then, start crying like a small kid?
When you are not very sure about yourself, you have certain complexities. You think that when other people shine, it will be to your disadvantage. Look at Mbadi. He's become a mtu ya mkono of Duale.
Duale insists the health laws bill did not touch on matters counties and thus did not require the input of the Senate.
This health laws amendment bill does not concern county governments. They are on policy, they are on regulation, they are on reconstitution of boards. So Honorable Murkomen should read the law.
The Senate will succeed in annulling all those laws that were considered without participation of the Senate.
If Murkomen wants to go to court, he doesn't need to tell us on TV.
There is a line of thinking that the feuding between the majority and minority leaders in both houses stems from the political differences that they do have in their respective political parties. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV at Parliament Buildings.
The new government spokesman, Cyrus Oguna, will be making an address, his first address to the press conference, amid concerns that the office is losing its relevance.
Now, outgoing spokesman, that's Eric Kiraithe, says that most holders of the office have been turned into spectators as each ministry and government department takes up the job of blowing its own trumpet.
In his exit report, Kiraithe says that the result of confusion is that it is becoming increasingly hard to differentiate a con man on the streets from a cabinet secretary as the public continues to lose trust in the government.
Here's NTV's Silas Apollo.
How often have you doubted information coming from a government agency or its official? Or better still, how to counter-check that information to verify its authenticity?
Or put another way, how often do you hear a cabinet secretary say one thing but contradict him or herself the soon after? Well, this should not surprise you, since it is what has become the norm in government. Some ministries have even gone to the extent of glorifying CSs and heads of department, all in the name of publishing their good deeds. Outgoing government spokesman Eric Kiraithe says that this trend has seen a majority of the public lose trust in government. Kiraithe says in his exit report that the result of this disorganization is that now it is hard for a man on the streets to distinguish a cabinet secretary from any other conman on the streets. He says that this is because state agencies have actively disseminated information portraying sitting CSs as untrustworthy. This is not to forget the increasing craze by ministries to give focus on the CSs who've perfected the art of blowing their own trumpet to the media to be seen as working. The government spokesman is, as a result, left to speculate, just like the rest of Kenyans. A case in point is the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Fred Matiang'i, who some view as having mastered the art of media spinning to propel government agenda. It is this mastery that others have linked to his promotion as the Prefect CS. The Office of the Government Spokesman was established in 2004 with the responsibility of speaking on behalf of the government. But this work has proved to be an uphill task, with most office holders, including Kiraithe, being accused of running down the department. It is only Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua who was the first holder of the office, who was lauded for bringing the office to life. But Mutua also faced criticism, with some accusing him of using the office to spread government propaganda. But just like the office of the government spokesman, the presidency, especially that of Uhuru Kenyatta, has also had its equal share of criticism. The office, which was lauded for the vibrancy with which it communicated its agenda during the first term of the Kenyatta presidency, has recently been marred by controversies and abrupt exits. Its current holder, Kanzi Dena, was last week forced to apologize to Kenyans for her ineffectiveness. Dena said in a tweet that a mistake was made after her office failed to inform Kenyans on the progress made by President Kenyatta on his state visit to China, but promised to improve going forward. Dena's predecessors Manoa Isipisu, Dennis Itumbi and others were forced out over poor working relationships and disagreements, according to sources within State House. Kiraithe now proposes a restructuring of the office and elevating it to the level of that of the Principal Secretary to improve its efficiency. He further calls for the centralization of all government communication. Silas Apollo, NTV.
All right, let's turn our attention now to health matters, and the Kenya Hospital Association, that comprises of shareholders of the Nairobi hospital, has today announced the new board and made good their threat to replace 7 former members.
The new board, according to the association, is made up of reputable doctors and will be instrumental in improving health services and reducing costs for the same.
Charity Mwangi reports on the subtle takeover at the hospital.
Their cool demeanor and confident disposition hides the boardroom politics at the hospital's top management. This is a coup, a management takeover with 7 members of the outgoing board, casualties of this turn of events. Among the deposed group is the chair, Dr. John Simba, vice chair Kauts Otolo, and directors Alan Gashukia, Sam Ncheri, Charles Kariuki, Margaret Muigai, and Anuja Kapila. Those from the previous board are just 3, Eric Kahugu, Jean Kagia and Maina Wanjehia, who are part of the new board.
It has been a long journey, and I would like to appreciate the members of KHA who have remained steadfast in this journey. It is a journey that could have been avoided. Nonetheless, the board has left members with no choice but to exercise their sovereign power, and have done so loud and clear.
The incoming members include Tabitha Manyiva, Maxwell Otieno, Jeremy Ikindu, Dr. Chris Bichange, Stephen Ochiel, Wilfred Irungu, Zahra Bahlewa Moi, Susan Carr Hartley, and Richard Omwela.
This has just been a house cleaning, trying to change and allow for a board to put in practice core business and put structures that build this hospital, and not to do things that do not augur well for our patients.
The wrangles became public after a suspension was issued to the recently ousted CEO Gordon Odundo in December 2018 to allow for an audit. He was later fired on the 17th of April 2019. The board has been mum on whether the change of guard will facilitate the reinstatement of the former CEO or appoint a new one.
Questions you are asking should be directed to the new board when they've officially started work. At the moment, it's too early for them, and we still expect a lot of resistance to the new board. So they cannot start promising anything else until they are comfortable seated in the chair.
The association says that they anticipate a lawsuit following their bold move. They, however, maintain that their decision holds, as they had the required quorum to make a valid decision. According to them, they only needed 20 of the registered association members, and for a third of that number to vote for the dissolution of the board. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Right, we're about to take a break, but first here's a sneak preview of something interesting. 2 minors have been the subjects of vicious battles in and out of the court in the scramble for custody.
But now the state has taken them from the guardians and adoptive parents and reintegrated them.
So how did the minors end up in alternative family care, and why has the state taken them back?
Our investigative reporter Edmund Yabola embarks on a journey to unravel the mystery behind this saga.
Here now is a sneak preview of this Sunday's NTV Investigates Cot to Court.
A rescue operation by the DCI Child Protection Unit.
You've taken him? Are you kidding me? You've just taken you have literally killed
This is a sick baby. You know, we are the only parents he's ever known.
Walikuwa pale ndani kwa karatasi ya polythene paper.
The guardianship process to start without involving Moga. That's one of the irregularities.
We have been denied access into New Life Home Trust.
There were 2 men holding guns. So you can imagine my shock.
You knew that the mother wanted her child back.
Caught to Court, that's on Sunday during the 9 o'clock news bulletin. But today, Wednesday, we take a break here on NTV Tonight. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Oh, you've got me on my knees.
Welcome back. NTV Tonight continues on the crime beat, and an Israeli man has been killed and his wife is in critical condition after being attacked by unknown assailants in Kitale in Trans Nzoia County.
43-year-old Yeshayahu Wooten was attacked at 3 a.m. when the assailants broke into his home through a window, hitting him several times on the head.
NTV's Helen Aura reports.
This house in Spring Valley area in Kitale was home to 43-year-old Israeli Yeshayahu Wooten and his Kenyan wife Postin Shitotoi, who is a doctor at a local hospital. The couple was attacked at 3 a.m. by unknown men, killing Wooten on the spot as he was hit by a blunt object on the head. His wife left in critical condition.
A white man living in a slum area is too conspicuous. So maybe, and even the area is not, the security situation there is very, he can be a target of anything.
Kisia kwamba watu hawa ambao wamefanya mambo haya ni watu ambao wanajua familia hii nzuri sana.
The police found 220,000 shillings under a mattress and claimed that there seemed to be a tussle before Wooten's death. The assailants stole 2 mobile phones and a television before escaping.
Natoa onyo kali kwamba majambazi ambao wana nia ya kuvamia watu usiku na kuwanyang'anya mali yao, serikali haitakubali.
According to police, efforts by the wife to raise an alarm were not heard as the music in a neighboring club overpowered her call for help. The deceased wife was rushed to Kitale Referral Hospital where she has been admitted. The residents are now calling for increased security in the area. Helen Aura, NTV.
Lawyers will seek to reinstate the mandatory Higher Education Loans Board and Kenya Revenue Authority clearance certificates for candidates seeking Law Society of Kenya posts.
LSK representative to the Judicial Service Commission, Macharia Njeru, says the decision was ill-informed, adding that lawyers are not above the law and should therefore heed requirements as would any other Kenyan citizen.
Our reporter Mel Miendo reports.
Lawyer Macharia Njeru was sworn in to the Judicial Service Commission as a member representing the Law Society of Kenya. After winning the vote against immediate former LSK representative Tom Ojenda, Macharia has now officially begun his role in the commission. Top on his agenda is to review the removal of mandatory clearance certificates from the Higher Education Loans Board and Kenya Revenue Authority clearance for candidates seeking LSK posts, which passed during LSK's annual general meeting on 30th March 2019. Lawyers present agreed that only a certificate of good conduct from the DCI sufficed.
My election tells you that a majority of lawyers were against that removal of those requirements, and I'm certain that they'll be reinstated. We can't, as lawyers, expect that we'll have special rules applicable to us and then members of the public have different rules. No, that's not possible.
Macharia is keen on bridging the gap between lawyers and the judiciary, with both institutions facing allegation of corrupt dealings with individuals in the public and private sector.
We must all be accountable, not just the judicial officers and staff, but also us as lawyers. That I acknowledge. It is for that reason that lawyers have sent me with very clear instructions that they want cartels to be rid of the institution.
And I want to thank you for your pledge that we work together as a commission and ensure that we deliver justice to the people.
With his new position in the JSC, Macharia will be seeking to unite lawyers after what appeared to be a divisive electoral period.
They do not want a representative appearing in courts or in tribunals in representation of clients or engage in any forms of conflict of interest by using the office for personal gain.
Macharia was sworn in alongside Justice David Majanja, who replaces Agri Muchelule as a member in the JSC, as well as Stella Munyi, who will serve as assisting counsel to the Tribunal of Justice Jackton Ojwang. Mel Miendo, NTV.
Ethan Junior Mwendo, the 7-month-old baby boy who lost his life after he was injected with a lethal jab of morphine at the Shalom Community Hospital, has been buried. Baby Ethan was laid to rest at Sakini village in Makueni County amid demands for justice.
The gloom was heavy as family and friends openly wept as they paid their last respect to 7-month-old Ethan Mwendo, who died a week ago. The pain was raw, the anger was real. The infant lost his life after he was given an overdose of morphine at Shalom Hospital, where his parents took him after he got burned at their Machakos home. Hundreds of mourners gathered at Sakini village in Makueni County, where baby Ethan was laid to rest. For a flower that had not yet fully blossomed, it was a painful moment for this family.
Sisi tumekubali kuachilia kijana wetu apumzike na Yesu Kristo juu mbinguni, na ndiposa aweze kuwa atuombea, atubariki na atulinde.
Brian and I loved Ethan so much. It pains so much when we learn that out of a small injury he lost his life. We pray that God will strengthen us to learn to live without our baby brother. Shine on our baby brother. We will see you again in heaven. We all ask for justice to be served for Ethan and every other child who has lost their life in the hands of the incompetent nurses and doctors.
According to family pathologist Dr. Zaniel Zuria, Ethan died of respiratory depression due to swelling of the brain brought about by the alleged morphine intoxication. Preliminary investigations indicate that the person who administered the drug on the baby was unqualified. Shalom Hospital was consequently closed after the tragic incident.
Lazima tufuate mpaka mwisho. Tuangalia kwamba chochote kimefanyika, and if this particular, and I am aware there is sufficient evidence.
The legal process is going to bring out the truth, and more especially to bring justice to baby Ethan, his parents.
As family and friends lowered the casket carrying the remains of Ethan, their hope is that no other family will have to go through similar circumstances. Rozongoi, NTV.
I believe the other.
May Ethan rest in peace, and pull it to the family that have lost him. On to another sad story, and the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board report on Shalom Athi River Hospital over the negligence that led to a woman deliver on the floor reveals that the patient Rachel Muli was asked to walk for 5 meters despite her labor being at the final stage. The nurses at the labor ward asked the patient to stand up from the wheelchair and walk to the examination room from the nursing station, made 2 steps and felt the baby coming out. The board faulted the hospital for not wheeling her to the examination room. Further, it has emerged that Rachel Muli was left unattended after delivery on the floor with a retained placenta being at a high risk of hemorrhage. The nurse failed to record that the patient had delivered on the floor. The board found that John Ndege, the casualty nurse on duty, failed to effectively assess and examine the patient, missing the fact that Rachel needed urgent attention. Some nurses did not have the registration certificate in their files, while others did not have valid licenses from the NCK. The hospital is expected to submit progress of implementation of the recommendations by the board.
Still on the health beat, other than dirty linen hanging out in the public and overflowing litter bins, a report by the Kenya Medical Practitioners Board has revealed more than the filth in the Kerugoya Hospital. The KMPDB report reveals that there was also a breakdown in service delivery at the facility, and the report revealed that the hospital experienced a frequent shortage of milk formula in the newborn unit and also had inadequate blood supply. NTV's Eunice Omola reports that the Ministry of Health accuses some staff members for intentionally crippling services at the hospital to flourish private facilities.
It has been scrubbing and cleaning at the Kerugoya Hospital for the past few days, but all this cannot remedy the systematic and procedural faults the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board found behind the walls of the dirty hospital. According to the board, the laboratory at the KRA Hospital could not perform basic tests such as full hemogram and urinalysis. This is because it has obsolete machines and lacks necessary reagents, a fault which, according to the Ministry of Health, was caused by officers who have been holding LPOs for lab reagents so that patients are sent to private laboratories near the hospitals. Random blood sugar strips were reported to be out of stock every so often. Other poorly managed departments include the newborn unit, which experiences frequent shortage of milk formula. Lack of support staff at the facility forced mothers at the newborn unit to carry out cleaning services. Mothers also had to survive the unhygienic environment at the clinic caused by constant blockages of the sewer system in the maternity unit. The report also highlights poor management of supplies, which were also stored in poor conditions, with some drugs stored on the floor and open air. The board indicated shortage of storage space and that the hospital has been forced to store some of the medical commodities in nearby health facilities. KMPDB had also recommended disciplinary action on 6 members of staff who were accused of neglecting their duty and as a result endangering patients' care and safety. According to the report, it emerged that Dr. Gideon Mburu, who is the hospital manager, was an absentee and uncooperative medical superintendent who lied about being away and showed up later at 5 p.m. on the day of inspection. Caesar Kamau, the hospital administrator, has been faulted for being out of touch with the reality at the facility and absenteeism as well. Others who are expected to face professional and administrative disciplinary measures include County and Hospital Public Health Officers Evans Kago and Bernard Kamau, Ruth Mwai, the nursing manager, and Dr. Eva Chuka, the hospital pharmacist in charge. In her statement, Health CS Cecily Karaoke has confirmed that the ongoing recruitment of a county executive committee member is in its final stages, and this should come in handy in ensuring linkages between the executive and hospital's management. She further stated that the hospital has now been thoroughly cleaned and the laundry machine at the hospital repaired and in service. Eunice Omolo, NTV.
To the education sector now, where the Cabinet Secretary George Magoha says the government remains undeterred in implementing the competence-based curriculum CBC. The CS says those opposed to the CBC have every right to do so, but cannot stop the process, which has already begun. NTV's education reporter Sharon Baranga with the story.
Why is our country lagging behind? You can say we are local champions, not good enough. Do you get the point? Why are we lagging behind? Because we spend too much time thinking about nothing, talking about nothing. We should focus on issues that are measurable. And this time, as we are first among equals, because we are in a team where I'm only first among equals, can we synergize our energies to deliver? It is possible, because this is what will take Kenya to the next stage. There is a Kupet who are telling me that they have seen me and they were not invited. And the one who is saying he's not coming, I was not keen to invite. So this politics has to stop. This stupid, no, it is true. If I find you playing politics with the lives of Kenyan children, then you have no place in my life. Because if now they are telling me, why did I not invite them? And they fully support. Kupet fully supports what we are doing. Why don't you invite Kupet? You are instead inviting somebody who you know will just use the letter to say he's not coming. I thought I should breathe that out for you. And a warning to anybody who still has any idea that we are going to take anything lying down. We shall not do so.
All right, it is 20 to 10. Time to take a quick break here on NTV tonight. But when we return, Mark Masai will be handling the business news.
stories now. Farmers from Soy constituency in Uasin Gishu County have uncovered corrupt practices in the distribution of government-subsidized fertilizer, which is handed out nationally through the National Cereals and Produce Board's depots. Here's Lois Wangoi with the exclusive story of how a chief from the area of Soy was found red-handed giving wrong information on the stock of fertilizer available with the aim of profiting from illegal sale of the commodity later.
A day after residents of Moisbridge started receiving subsidized fertilizer through the National Cereals and Produce Board, they have become an angry lot. Reason? They claim that area chiefs who are in the last chain of command in the distribution of subsidized fertilizer from the national government are hoarding the commodity. The area chief in this location told them that only 1,000 bags were available for distribution, but they suspected foul play. The residents demonstrated to NCPB Moisbridge Depot to search for the truth.
Kitu ambaye iko ni ya kwamba bwana manager, hata ofisa wa agriculture tumechoka na nyinyi.
Currently, most farmers here are receiving a maximum of 2 to 3 bags of subsidized CAN fertilizer, which translates to a total of 100 to 150 kilograms. CAN is used to top dress crops, which accelerates their growth. This explains the anger on the faces of these farmers for missing out on CAN. True to their suspicions, the silo manager at the depot told them that the fertilizer available was much more than the 1,000 bags which the area chief had stated.
Lakini tumeitisha malori zingine zinakuja. Yeah. Sasa natakana WADA agriculture officer aje hapa achukue hii figure.
After heated confrontations between the silo manager and the residents, the county executive in charge of agriculture in Uasin Gishu County, Samuel Yego, found his way to the depot, and after day-long consultations with the area's administrative leaders and to the shock of residents, he announced that a total of 9,750 bags were available. The shocking revelation provides a clear picture of how unscrupulous government officials often dupe unsuspecting farmers into missing out on subsidized fertilizer from the government.
Sisi tunashangaa kwa nini nyinyi mnapatia transfer mbolea 40 mnatupatia sisi 2.
If the residents of Soy had let the government officials have their way, the 8,750 bags would have likely ended up in the wrong hands. The current market price of a 50-kilogram bag of CAN fertilizer is about 2,400 shillings. This means the officials at NCPB Moisbridge would have pocketed 21 million shillings from the sale of the fertilizer.
Na wewe una eka 10. Munierese bode ya 3 kwa eka 10 inapadaga wapi? Na tunaomba bwana Ginoti, tumekuwa tukisikia akifanya kazi nzuri. Atumane mtu akuje Moisbridge achunguze vitabu kama sisi tunasema uongo. Hatutakubali tena siku nyingine kukuja kudhulumiwa hapa Moisbridge.
Farmers who witnessed the citizen-led bust which denied drug officials a killing were a happy lot for setting aside the activities of the day in hopes that justice would be served, and it was. For their efforts, they will get more fertilizer, which is likely to translate to more yields, hence higher incomes. The question that begs an urgent answer, however, is whether the Ministry of Agriculture or the county government of Uasin Gishu will intervene to ensure that the corrupt officials are prosecuted. Lois Wangoi, NTV, Eldoret.
The national elections for the chairmanship of the Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce and Industry may have been resolved through consensus among those who were interested in the top post, but the same cannot be said of regional elections. In Mombasa, the chairperson of the Coast chapter of the chamber, Rukia Rashid, this morning snubbed an event to hand over the reins to the incoming chair, Mustafa Ramadan. Rukia Rashid served as the chair for the past 3 years but lost to Ramadan in elections that were held in April. The new chair has outlined his key priority areas, which include expanding engagement channels with the public to grow the chamber's brand.
During my tenure in this position, I will take strides in creating more value for our members by recommending new subcommittees within our committees. These new subcommittees will provide members with more advocacy avenues and also provide marketing tools to promote members' businesses through short videos, newsletters, magazine, website, and more.
Global crude oil prices remain largely stable a day after Saudi Arabia reported attacks on its oil pumping stations and the sabotage of its oil tankers. Victor Kiprop now reports on the uncertainty that is brewing in the world's largest oil producer, which could see global production drop and end up pushing up costs for net oil importing economies like Kenya.
As Kenyans grapple with the effects of the increase in fuel prices announced on Tuesday by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, current developments in the Middle East could see the prices rise even further next month. Drone attacks by Iran-allied Yemeni rebels shut down one of Saudi Arabia's major oil pipelines, which is estimated to pump 5 million barrels of oil per day from the oil-rich eastern province to a Red Sea export terminal. Another key pipeline was also damaged in the attack. The attacks come as reports from the Saudi government indicate that 2 of its oil vessels were attacked off the coast of the United Arab Emirates amid growing tensions between the United States and Iran. The rising instability in the Middle East, which accounts for about a third of global oil production and nearly all of global spare capacity, could slow down production or affect supply chains, pushing up global crude oil prices. Currently, a barrel of crude oil, which is equivalent to approximately 159 liters, goes for $73.21, up from $50.5 at the end of last year. In Kenya, fuel prices have risen for the third month in a row, with the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority increasing prices of super petrol by 5 shillings and 43 cents per litre, diesel by 2 shillings and 24 cents, and kerosene by 2 shillings and 40 cents in Nairobi. The world is watching keenly the developments between the US and Iran, as well as Saudi Arabia, hoping that tensions will cool down to prevent volatility in crude oil prices. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is calling on African countries to integrate technology in the development plan, since it holds immense economic potential to transform African economies. President Kenyatta spoke when he unveiled Kenya's digital economic blueprint at the ongoing Transform Africa Summit 2019, which is taking place in Kigali, Rwanda. Kenya's framework will be used to guide the acceleration and adoption of digital technologies across the continent.
The blueprint outlines 5 pillars for the development of a digital economy. First is the digital infrastructure and the availability of affordable, accessible, resilient, and reliable infrastructure, achieving ubiquitous, fast, and inexpensive internet connectivity for African businesses and households is critical to unlocking the potential of the digital economy.
Africa can only protect our people's interests and increase the size of our market through integration and cooperation. This is especially the case when it comes to harmonizing laws and regulations and ensuring that Africa's ICT infrastructure is managed.
And the business bulletin ends in Kigali. Stay with us, more after the break.
When the spirit of Kenya got going that magical day, it never looked back. And now, the same spirit is ready to take Kenya.
Welcome back. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha says the government remains undeterred in implementing the competence-based curriculum. The CS says those opposed to the CBC have every right to do so, but cannot stop the process which has already begun. Here now is NTV's Sharon Baranga with that story.
Officials in government, especially those in the Ministry of Education, were here to launch the first national curriculum policy. Education CS Professor George Magoha taking on opponents of the competence-based curriculum.
What the hell do you want and who the hell do you think you are to be saying that nothing is going on?
When it came to dealing with stakeholders who are not in support of the competence-based curriculum, Education Cabinet Secretary did not mince his words. He went as far as referring to them as ish stakeholders. Why
are we lagging behind? Because we spend too much time thinking about nothing, talking about nothing. We should focus on issues that are measurable. Have you measured the thickness of my skin? You will find that when I was at the University of Nairobi, the skin became thicker than that of a hippopotamus. So stop wasting your time. So if you have something better, why don't you tell us what it is, or shut up?
Through a letter addressed to the CS, the Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General Wilson Sosion declined to attend the event. In the letter, Sosion says, and I quote, "NAT shall not be used to validate any illegal policy whose development is surrounded in mystery." It goes on to say, "Today is a different narrative. Inviting the union for the launch, this is like putting a cart before the horse. You are launching the policy when the train has already left the station. It is fresh in your mind that it is the same exercise that led to the arbitral interdiction of over 200 teachers for boycotting to participate in the flawed CBC training exercise. NAT, therefore, will not be part of the launch of an illegal policy." End of quote. The CS had this to say concerning the contents of the letter.
Kupet, who are telling me that they have seen me and they were not invited. And the one who is saying he's not coming, I was not keen to invite. So this politics has to stop. This stupid, no, it is true.
The government has so far distributed more than 12 million competence-based curriculum books to public schools.
Rome was not built in a day. We shall walk this journey together. We shall overcome the pitfalls.
We value the views of everybody, and we want this document to be interrogated. We are launching it.
The government will review the rollout of the CBC in August. More teachers are expected to receive training during that period. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
It's a minute past 10 o'clock. The sports news is coming up next with Brian.
The Kenya Academy of Sports Council, through the chairperson Dr. Paul Tergat, invites you to the inaugural
All Gor Mahia's victory for an 18th Kenyan Premier League title after defeating the league leaders 1-0 at the Mumias Sports Complex. KCB banked points from their victory against AFC Leopards, while Zoo maintained their surge off the relegation zone with a win over Western Stima in Wednesday's Kenyan Premier League action.
Hansel Ochieng was a hero for Nzoia Sugar as they stunned champions Gor Mahia by a solitary goal in their Kenyan Premier League match played at the Mumias Sports Complex. The shock defeat saw Kogalo's march towards an 18th Premier League title, their third in a row and 6th in 7 years.
Vigumu kwa timu zote kuweza kujimudu, lakini tunafanya tu ni kuweza kupatia vijana motisha na kuonyesha kwamba ni vizuri tumalize katika nafasi nzuri.
After the match, frustrated Gor fans were baying for the fourth official, with some roughing up an NTV cameraman. The loss leaves Gor Mahia on 66 points, 10 ahead of second place Sofapaka, ahead of the Mashemeji derby with AFC Leopards on Sunday. AFC Leopards will rue the missed opportunities after suffering a 1-0 loss to KCB at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. Kennedy Owino scored the all-important goal for the Bankers, and the 3 points keep them in 11th place with 37 points.
Our objective is to remain in the league, so I think these 3 vital points have kept us even safer.
Ahead of the Mashemeji derby this weekend, Leopards are 9th with 39 points. At the Owenda Green Stadium, Sony Sugar were 2-0 winners over Kariobangi Sharks. A goal in each half from Salman Omolo and Enoch Agwanda secured the 3 points for the Sugar Millers, who move up 1 place to 6th with 49 points. Sharks remain in 10th place with 38 points after suffering their 7th loss of the season. Zoom made it 2 wins in a row at the Kericho Green Stadium after beating Western Stima 2-1. It was a crucial win for the hosts on the back of a 2-1 win over Ulinzi last weekend as they push to avoid relegation this season. Zoo are currently placed 16th in the table, 3 points ahead of 17th place Vihiga United, while Western Stima are 13th.
A game on Sunday Mombasa na Bandari. Nafikiri ndasema tu kitu yote yenye itakuja lakini si lose. Tukipata hata point moja Mombasa then plus kwetu.
On Thursday, Bandari hosts Tusker at the Mbaraki Sports Club, and after all the games, all clubs will have played 30 matches each as the league realigns itself to global competitions. Sean Carter-Billis, NTV.
And the Football Kenya Federation has launched a workshop for Kenyan Premier League clubs as a precursor to the club licensing process for the 2019-2020 season. The workshop took place at Strathmore University and brought together officials from the clubs who were taken through an overview of the club licensing process. A FIFA requirement through respective confederations, club licensing targets key areas such as governance and youth football for teams taking part in competitive football. Clubs have until the 7th of June to submit the relevant documents to the FKF Club Licensing Committee.
Coach, can you substitute and remove those documents of the other coach?
We cannot prevent an individual, like Nairobi City Stars has been bought by a new individual who has companies, who has businesses. But we do not know what if in 2 years they lose interest. The way to do this is to have a fund at Premier League level or at league level or at FKF level that guarantees that at least the club will finish the season if they have a financial problem. I think that is what we will look at going forward, to make sure we have a certain amount of money which is called upon by a committee that assesses your club. If indeed you have a deep financial problem, only pays for the matches which you attend, and at the end of the season you are relegated in any case.
FIVB seconded Italian coach Shailene Ramdu believes Kenyan volleyball players can participate in the highest international competition if the players discover their potential and showcase their best there is. Ramdu has been conducting training with the national men and women's volleyball teams ahead of this weekend's Women's All-Africa Games qualifier at the Lugogo Indoor Arena in Uganda.
Malkia Strikers received a major boost in their preparation for the All-Africa Games Zone 5 qualifiers, with the FIVB seconded tactician Shailene Ramdu impacting his coaching prowess to the national volleyball teams.
There's always positives of things.
but at least akili yetu inafunguka basic wise na anatupush. Naona analeta new things na zitatusaidia sana, especially kwa defense.
We've already seen the impact. He's well skilled and he's already teaching us a lot of skills, a lot of basic, correcting us on what we are doing wrong, and teaching us how to play modern volleyball basically.
Kenya, who are the All-Africa Games defending champions, will line up against hosts Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Tanzania and Egypt, with the winner of the week-long event bagging the sole ticket to represent Zone 5 region in the August Games in Morocco.
And Poland's Sports and Tourism Minister Witold Banka is set to become the next president of the troubled World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, after Tuesday's vote left him as the only remaining candidate. Banka, an elite athlete who helped Poland win a bronze medal in the 4x400 meters relays at the 2007 World Championships.
Gone for ages, so it's good to be missed.
Who told you that?
Many people in the office. I won't reveal my sources. But yes, thank you for watching NTV Tonight. My name is Mark Masai. It's good to be back.
Welcome back, Mark. I should have said that at the beginning. But yeah, great to have you back. And it did feel like a long time, but I did enjoy my time with Dennis.
It's good.
But always good to have you back. We are indeed. All right, thanks to Rafael Mbalo. He's been our sign language interpreter tonight. I'm Smriti Vidyarthi. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Good night.
Good night.